Welcome to
The watch. The Chinese watch. Yes.
the Chinese Watch. Today we have the much promised and even more anticipated review of the Cadison 8208G. This watch was purchased by me for right around $65 on Aliexpress. The page I purchased it from states it's at 8208M, but it's got the letter G on the actual model number on the back of the case. If you can see that. I'll do some still shots of this watch so you can see that kind of thing. Now, today's episode, we're hoping to answer the question, is this the greatest value on all of AliExpress? Some of the important features of this watch are first of all, it looks great. This is the blue model. This is a watch that homages a very expensive Swiss timepiece that you may be familiar with. If you're not, just know that Cadison did not come up with this design. It's a classical, much loved design though. This is stated from the Aliexpress website to have all stainless steel construction, a double dome sapphire crystal. It also claims to have claims to have screw pins in the bracelet, and I can confirm that is a lie. And there's a couple other things we're a little dubious on the website. But what it doesn't state, which I will state for you now, is it has AR coating, it seems. If you follow that light across the dial, there's the back of the crystal shows blue, and I believe that means that it's AR coating. I might be wrong. I'm not a watch expert. You tell me, anybody, if you know whether or not that's true, I would be interested to know. Speaking of the bracelet again, it doesn't state on the website, but I can confirm this does have solid end links, and they are male or female pivoted end links, which just means that this first center link pivots, whereas on a male pivot end link it's straight. The case is nearly all fully brushed. There is a high polish bottom edge to the case, as well as a ring of high polish around the case back. For some reason, they feel the need to put a picture on the cases, it is what it is. In my humble opinion, again, if you're going to put a diving mask on the back of a watch, it better be certified to dive with. I would have just left it clear or just put the Cadison logo on there. Don't take your Chinese watches diving with you, or you'll be disappointed when you get home, or you may die because you were using it to time your oxygen use. Other features, we have the clasp is partly milled. The bottom part is milled. That's the part that goes against your skin, and it is really nicely done. It's a nice, precise fit between the two elements, and they're well finished. Overall, I think this is a very well finished piece, and this part is no exception. It does have a pressed steel outer clasp, which is brushed and finished nicely with the Cadison name brand and logo. crown also is signed with the Cadison logo or some kind of logo. It's like a triangle. It has a ceramic bezel insert. And I really like this watch. I've been wearing it since I got it. I wear it almost every day, and I really enjoy wearing it. The lume is a bit of a disappointment. I charged it up last night at 9 p.m., and when I got up at 7:30 a.m., the dial was still quite legible. Surprising. The hands, however, were not. So to say that's of limited use, it should have been the other way around. If you had the hands, you could at least guess what time it is, but you can't really even make a good guess. So if a little more lume had been applied to the hands, and they don't take a lot of lume, if you look closely, there's only a small area, surface area that holds that lume. It doesn't match with the rest of the dial, which is fine. It matches well enough. Also, the paint in the bezel is matches well enough also. So I'd say it's a pretty good match overall, the colors. The bezel insert, being ceramic, is high gloss, and the dial is matte. But other than that, I think everything really matches well. The numbers on the dial line up really well, although I just didn't stop it in the right spot. The bezel action is, it's not great, but it feels even all the way around. The other watch I unboxed had really terrible bezel action, and it was uneven to boot. So this one, if you're careful, you can line it up. You could even use that to count down the minutes of your 15-minute break if you wanted to. That's why they call it a chronograph bezel. Essentially, you put the pip where the minute hand is, and it will tell you your elapsed time. So wherever the minute hand ends up, that's how many minutes have passed. I've tried to use this feature on this and other watches in the past, and it works fine, except I never remember to look at it until it's too late. So that's what they call user error. So is this the best watch on Aliexpress? I would say no. Well, let me rephrase that. This one I got, it has a manufacturer's defect. And I'll show you what that is. It's not apparent until you try to set the watch. So you pull the crown out to the second position, you can set the time. And then when you go to put the crown back so it's waterproof again, push it in, and this should take you all the way to the first position. So right now I should be winding the watch, but watch, it still sets the time. Even if I hold it in, even if I'm starting to engage the threads of the crown tube. That's a total bummer. Look, I got the thing already wound in. Hasn't been that bad before. There. Okay, so finally I have the crown screwed down, and it's moved the watch ahead by about an hour. That sucks. That really sucks. So what I do is, let me try this again. I'll set the watch to 12 noon. And then I'll push it in. Push it in again. Then I'll push the crown in and kind of unscrew it. Of course, now if it's in a date setting position, I've just flipped the date. Okay, now I've managed to get it back into the winding position somehow. So that's a manufacturer's defect. If it wasn't for that, I'd be really super happy with the watch. The loom leaves a lot to be desired, but the finishing on this piece is really excellent. It's really, really good. Some of the other measurements, lug to lug is 45 millimeters. According to 4K Watch Reviews, who I think is at least the most professional and consistent watch review channel out there, 48 millimeters is the perfect lug-to-lug measurement. This one comes in at 44.44 or 43 or 40, depending on how hard you jam your calipers together. Let's say 44.5 millimeters. So not quite that sweet spot, but for someone with a smaller wrist like me, or if you're a female that likes to wear men's watches, it's a nice size. It really is. I'm not super excited about the date. They put it there at the 4 o'clock position, which is pretty common. I think mostly so that they could have the 12, 3, and 6 showing on the sandwich dial, which I think was a good decision. But I'm not sure I wouldn't like it better with no date at all. But I actually like the branding. I like Cadison as a name. It's non-descriptive. It could conceivably be an actual name of a product. So many of the Chinese watch brands, they just kind of jam a bunch of letters together and hope it looks good to the American audience, I guess. Yeah, see, I'm not succeeding in getting that to lock again. Let me try pulling it all the way out. And that time I pushed it twice and it got in there. The sword hands are nicely done. If you see how the reflection on that flips from one side to the other, that's because they're kind of folded over like a prism. And then the broad arrow hour hand really helps to differentiate the two hands from each other. While their length is not an extreme difference, their shape is, and the hour hand is shorter. The thickness of this is a 13 millimeter thickness. The bezel is a 90 click bezel. If they would have gone with 180 click, it might have had a little bit better action. But the action, I can live with it. I can live with it. What's bad about it is it's got back play. So you go to click, and then you can take it back almost about a half a minute back. Actually, it's not that bad. Yeah, it is a little inconsistent in the click, it seems. Maybe it's just the way I'm doing it. But value for money, I think you can't go wrong. If you prefer a bigger watch, I'm sure they make it in a bigger size. They may charge more. I don't know. But when it comes to the finishing, I don't see anything wrong with it at all. Many watches, when you have the holes for the bracelet, you'll see they're kind of smeared out. And you don't see that on this. Gets a lot of fingerprints. So I'm going to go out on a limb here. I'm going to name this a caviar watch for tuna fish money. With all due respect to 4K Watch Review, and recommend it for your consideration. Thank you for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe. Peace out. One of my favorite aspects of the styling is that if you look closely, the curve of the crystal continues into the edges of the bezel. So the bezel insert curves to match the curve of the crystal. So it looks like one big domed surface. I'm curious to see how well this keeps time. So let's put it on the time grapher. Makes a nice straight track. Shows 0 seconds per day error, 0 beat error, 261 degrees of amplitude. That is really wow. That is some of the best performance I've seen in any watch, let alone a $56 bargain Chinese timepiece. Yeah, even in the crown down position. Okay, now we're seeing a little, I don't know what that is, plus 3 seconds, which is still fantastic. This is really an excellent showing. This movement is a Japanese Seiko NH35. And the figures that we're looking at here probably speak more to the quality of that movement imported by this manufacturer than really the manufacturer itself, but I am impressed. That's extremely well timed, extremely well running piece. Right now it's gaining approximately a second a day. It has great amplitude, 0.0 beat error, which is, yeah, it's a stellar performance from this piece. So really nothing at all to be desired as far as the accuracy of the movement. Checking it in other orientations, 0 degrees. Oh, now it's negative 8 seconds a day, which is still excellent. I think this is rated to maybe 20 seconds a day. I'm not 100% sure. 12 seconds plus or minus. Rotate it around that way. Minus 4 seconds, but the track is just a beautiful, perfectly horizontal, just about track in that orientation as well. So hats off. This is a watch you could wear and rely on. Very nice. Overall for this thing, the looks are fantastic. Timekeeping, phenomenal. Quality of the build, very good. Quality of the finish, excellent. The places they save money, number one, quality control. They failed to notice that this stem is a little too short or something. It just doesn't work quite right. And it's something I could live with. I might try to possibly grind down the crown tube. If I took a couple thousandths of an inch off of that, it might end up functioning properly. I could request a new stem from them, cut it down myself, but I doubt they would ever send it to me. Who knows? Maybe they would. I'm sure the shipping to send the new stem is going to use up all their profit from this watch, but maybe they would do it. I'll check with them. They save money by using a pressed steel clasp instead of a milled steel clasp. I can live with that. They used push pins instead of screw pins. Push pins are cheaper to produce, but if you push them all the way in, I think they're even more secure than a screw pin because they're not going to back out. They're held in by the force of a spring. I don't have a problem with that either. I think that's a great way to save money. If you're going to produce a quality piece for a very low price, I think it's definitely a good compromise. Now the loom on the hands, that sucks. They could have really doubled the value for the customer if they just used a little more loom in that little tiny portion of the two hands. I didn't mention there's a loom pip here at 12 o'clock on the bezel. Just not that it's a big deal, but I just didn't mention it before, so that's also loomed, by the way. And the dial loom is great. It worked it lasted all night long. It lasted for 8 hours, and I could still read the dial. I just couldn't read the hands. So yeah, this is definitely a caviar watch for lemonade money. I mean, sorry about that. Caviar watch for tuna fish money. If you get one today, I doubt you'll regret it. If you do regret it and it ends up in the trash can, it's not going to change your lifestyle. So dive in.